The unexpected escape. Scarlett Johansson was tired of Hollywood. The flashing cameras, the fake smiles, the never-ending hustle. She needed out. So, she did something completely reckless. She booked a last-minute summer getaway to Spain. No security, no assistance, no paparazzi. Just her, a suitcase, and the promise of an adventure. What she did not expect was him. Richard Rockatansky, a singer, a mystery, a walking contradiction. Their first meeting was pure chaos, literally. Scarlett had been wandering through the crowded streets of Barcelona when Richard, in his usual clumsy fashion, tripped over a street performer's guitar case and nearly crashed into her. "Oh, damn sorry, love," he muttered, straightening his leather jacket. Scarlett should have walked away, but something about him, his easy smirk, the mischievous twinkle in his eyes, made her stay. That was her first mistake. A night of trouble. It started with drinks, then dancing, then an impromptu road trip to a beach party on the Costa Brava. Richard was magnetic, unpredictable, and completely reckless. And Scarlett? She had never felt more alive. But beneath the charm, something felt off. There were moments, just flashes, where Richard seemed distracted, almost nervous. A glance over his shoulder, a sudden need to leave a place too quickly. Then there was the detective, Jack Bishop, a charming but annoyingly persistent American who just happened to show up at the same bar where Scarlett and Richard were drinking. Scarlett Johansson, in Spain, alone. Jack grinned, sipping his whiskey. "That doesn't seem like you." Scarlett rolled her eyes. "And you?" "Some random detective just happens to be on vacation here too?" Jack chuckled, but his eyes flickered toward Richard. Scarlett noticed. Richard noticed too. And suddenly, he was in a hurry to leave. The chase begins. Scarlett had been in the industry long enough to recognize a script playing out in real life. Something was happening here, something big. Richard was hiding something. Jack knew more than he was letting on. And somehow, Scarlett was now stuck in the middle of it. Then came the final warning. A note slipped into her purse at a club. "Stay away from Richard Rockatansky. He is not who you think he is." Scarlett's heart pounded. She looked across the dance floor, locking eyes with Richard. He was already watching her, smirking. Or was it a warning? Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Time's running out. Choose wisely." Scarlett Johansson thought she came to Spain to escape Hollywood. Instead, she had walked straight into a thriller. And the scariest part? She had no idea who the villain was. The mask begins to slip. Scarlett Johansson had played many roles in her career, but this was new. A cryptic warning. A detective who seemed a little too interested. And Richard Rockatansky, a man who was either the most charming disaster she had ever met or something much, much worse. And now, she had a choice. Walk away before things got dangerous. Or stay and uncover the truth. She had never been good at walking away. The moment everything changed. The next morning, Scarlett woke up to sunlight streaming through her hotel window. The night before felt like a fever dream. The party, the warning, Richard's intense gaze across the dance floor. Her purse. She grabbed it off the nightstand and dug inside. The note was still there. "Stay away from Richard Rockatansky. He is not who you think he is." Scarlett exhaled slowly. Someone was messing with her. But why? Her phone buzzed. A message from Richard. "Richard, meet me. Same cafe as before. No questions. Just come." Her pulse quickened. Something was definitely off. A dangerous game. The cafe was tucked away in a quiet part of town, far from the crowded tourist spots. When Scarlett arrived, Richard was already there, leaning back in his chair, sunglasses hiding his eyes. "You came," he said, smirking. "Of course I did. You made it sound dramatic." Richard chuckled, but it did not quite reach his eyes. He tapped his fingers against his coffee cup. "You got a message last night, didn't you?" Scarlett froze. How do you know that? Richard sighed, rubbing his temple. Because I was supposed to get to you first. Something cold settled in Scarlett's stomach. So, you are hiding something. Richard leaned in, voice low. Look, Scarlett, there are people looking for me. People who don't like that I know things I shouldn't. Like what? Before he could answer, the cafe door swung open. Scarlett turned, just in time to see Jack Bishop walking in. Damn it. He spotted them immediately and strolled over like he had all the time in the world. Well, if it isn't my two favorite troublemakers. Richard tensed. Scarlett glanced between them. The air practically crackled. Jack, she said carefully, are you following me? Jack grinned. Following him. Actually, he nodded toward Richard. And judging by his face, I'd say he knows why. Richard muttered a curse under his breath. Scarlett crossed her arms. Someone sent me a warning last night. About him. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Jack's grin faded. You should listen to it. Richard slammed his coffee cup down. Enough with the cryptic threats, man. If you want to arrest me, do it. Otherwise, back off. Jack exhaled, looking Scarlett dead in the eye. You don't understand what you've gotten yourself into. Scarlett held his gaze. Then explain it to me. Jack hesitated. It's not that simple. Richard stood up abruptly. We're done here. He grabbed Scarlett's hand and pulled her toward the exit. She let him. For now. The truth, or something close to it. They walked in silence until they reached the beach. Richard finally stopped, running a hand through his hair. I was a musician. Just a dumb singer playing gigs, drinking too much, living off bad decisions, he said. Then I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Something powerful people didn't want getting out. Scarlett's heart pounded. Like what? Richard hesitated. A name. He looked around like someone might be watching. Scarlett leaned in. Tell me. Richard exhaled. I can't. Not here. Scarlett felt it. Then the moment her life shifted into something bigger than herself. She had come to Spain for an escape. Instead, she had stepped into a game she did not understand. And now, she was in too deep to walk away. The final curtain. Scarlett Johansson had been in a lot of movies. She had played heroes, villains, even people who walked the line between the two. But nothing had prepared her for this. A cryptic warning. A charming but reckless musician on the run. A detective who knew too much. And now she had a choice to make. Run for her life. Or fight for the truth. She had never been good at running. The setup. Scarlett and Richard sat in a dimly lit hotel room, the ocean humming outside like a restless beast. Richard ran a hand through his messy hair. You really should have walked away from this. Scarlett smirked. Yeah, well, I have a habit of making bad decisions. Richard chuckled, but there was something nervous in his eyes. Jack's not wrong, you know. I am dangerous to be around. Scarlett leaned in. Then tell me the truth. All of it. Richard exhaled. The people chasing me, they don't just want to scare me. They want me gone. Because I found something that could ruin them. Scarlett narrowed her eyes. And that something is? Richard hesitated. Then, carefully, he reached into his jacket and pulled out an old cassette tape. Scarlett blinked. Seriously? Richard half smiled. Looks old school, right? But what's on it? That's what matters. He placed it on the table, between them. Inside this tape is a recording. A conversation between some of the most powerful people in Hollywood. Deals. Crimes. Things that should never see the light of day. Scarlett stared at it. That's why they're after you, she murmured. Richard nodded. And if they find out you're involved, they'll come after you too. Scarlett leaned back, considering. So, she said slowly. Let's make sure they don't find out. The double cross. They needed to get out of Spain. Fast. Richard knew a guy, some tech genius, with a boat. But when they got to the marina, someone was already waiting. Jack Bishop. Scarlett swore under her breath. Jack stood by the water, hands in his pockets, looking as casual as ever. But his eyes, they were sharp, calculating. "I was hoping you'd listen to me, Scarlett," he said. "I really didn't want to do this the hard way." Scarlett crossed her arms. "Dio, what, exactly?" Jack sighed, then pulled out a gun. Richard tensed. "Oh, come on, man." "Really?" Jack looked at Scarlett. "Give me the tape." Scarlett glanced at Richard. Then she did something that surprised both of them. She laughed. Jack frowned. "What's funny?" Scarlett smirked. "You think I still have it?" Jack's jaw clenched. "Where is it?" Scarlett shrugged. "Wouldn't you like to know?" And then behind Jack, sirens. Richard grinned. "That would be our ride." Jack spun just as police cars screeched to a stop, flashing lights bouncing off the water. Officers poured out, guns raised. Scarlett stepped forward, hands up. "Detective, I do believe you're under arrest." Jack's face darkened. "You set me up." Scarlett winked. "I learned from the best." The grand finale. It turned out Jack was not just some detective with a grudge. He had been working for the people after Richard all along. The tape? Scarlett had already sent copies to every major news outlet. By morning, it would be everywhere. Richard was finally free. And Scarlett? Well, she had a new story to tell. The happy ending a week later, Scarlett and Richard sat in a quiet cafe, far from the chaos. Richard sipped his coffee. "Oh, what now?" Scarlett smiled. "I was thinking maybe a vacation." Richard smirked. "Anywhere but Spain." Scarlett laughed. "Anywhere with you." Richard's eyes softened. "You know, for someone who claims to make bad decisions, you kinda saved my life." Scarlett leaned in. "Yeah, well, maybe you were worth saving." And as the sun set over the city, painting the sky in gold and crimson, for the first time in a long time, Scarlett Johansson felt free. The end. Watch till the end for the shocking reveal. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more thrilling AI-generated stories.